Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at Nefarious Tales from Thirdway Industries. In the timeless tale of Sleeping Beauty by Charles Perrault, the fairy godmother was no benevolent being. Instead, she was an evil fairy who, angered by not receiving an invitation to the royal christening, cast a dark curse upon the princess, dooming her to a deep slumber. Centuries after the Perrault original, Mark Davis took on the task of animating the character into the iconic villainess Maleficent in the Disney adaptation of the story. And with that rendition, Disney created what would become the epitome of the bad guy in fairy tales, and with it fostered a fascination we have to this day with the evil and yet complex characters who lurk in the shadows of some of our favorite childhood stories. And when Giovanni Moroni created his Tales series of decks back in 2021, he tried to tap into that childhood wonder with a set of decks that brought a myriad of fairy tale characters to life, including the beautiful Wicked Tales deck, dedicated to some of the classic villains of storybook lore. Now, while I love this original though, I felt it always deserved a bit better. Fantastic cards as always, and a great theme and artwork, but sadly they were doomed to this relatively nondescript, glossy finished standard USPCC style tuck box. And it was a deck that was pretty much lacking in some of the adornments that really bring decks to the next level. Well, enter the Patreon exclusive Nefarious Tales, a remake of the original Wicked Tales that finally gives the deck the treatment that it deserves, from an upgraded luxury tuck box to the gilded cards within. But enough talk, let's dive into the deck and see the perfected version of this classic. It all starts, as always, with the tuck box. Now, these tuck boxes, unlike the originals done by USPCC, these were done by the masters at Boschiero Newton, Italian print shop, and they do some of the best letterpress and embossing and foiling work in the world. Just beautiful detail work and such precision on this one, and it really paid off. This one's done on a deep purple stock and covered with multiple colors of foil. You can see both that bright green as well as that yellow gold color, and really clean embossing throughout. Definitely a lot of design elements in keeping with the original, but obviously given all sorts of new life with the embossing and the foil. And a few little embellishments on here, things like the wings on the scepter here in the middle, and some extra little touches that give this just a little bit more depth to it. But overall, a beautiful color scheme. The greens and the purples definitely call to mind the classic color scheme that you associate with Maleficent. So very fitting ties that bring those evil vibes to the front right away. You get the name of the deck there, Nefarious Tales, and then the beautiful line work that, if you've seen other Giovanni decks, you're familiar with the style. It's just really nicely done on this one, and a great color scheme. On the sides, just Nefarious Tales with some ribbon work around the edges. Same thing on the other side. Your ad copy at the bottom, of course, gives credit to Boschiero and Newton, as well as the cards themselves made in the USA. So the same card from the original, just given new life with the new box and the gilding. And then on the top here, just like you see with a lot of Thirdway decks, just the 4 suits represented there on the top, of course in foil and embossing. And the back has a foiled and embossed version of the back design of the cards. Really, really nice there, and great glow to it. As you open it up, more of the foil elements with the winged skull there in the center with the kind of wavy background in green. Really like the color of that green foil. And then the apple, one of the classic symbols used in some of the stories, things like Snow White and the evil witch there, who used the poisoned apple to try to trick her, but you get the golden apple there. Nothing printed on the interior of the tuck box, but a beautiful masterpiece of a tuck box nonetheless. Just a really nice deck overall. And then as we get into the cards, you may have caught a peek of one of the other extra features on this one, and it's the gilding. And this one is actually a bit of a new and unique gilding process. So the process that was used on these, usually you just get foil applied, and that's when you get that nice glossy finish on them. But those foils are usually very limited in colors. You're limited to the specific colors. You know, if you print with Cartamundi, for example, they'll pretty much only do gold and silver foiling. Well, Giovanni was able to find a book gilder who had their own proprietary technique to provide a unique style of gilding. Not only does it provide this beautiful matte gilding in this kind of greenish gold color, but the color was able to perfectly match with the back design of the cards. If I hold these side by side, you'll see that that color perfectly matches with that metallic ink that's used on the back design of the cards. And that's because they're able to mix pigment in with the gilding material that's used on this one to create whatever color match that you want. Really cool technique, and it produces one of my favorite looking gilding styles that I've seen on any deck. I love the matte finish, love the color match to the back design of the cards, just absolutely impeccable. So a great upgrade. The cards themselves are going to be the same as Wicked Tales. If you've seen them, we'll go through them. But if you've seen the Wicked Tales cards, the backs and the faces are the same cards. It's that gilding that really makes this feel special. But let's check out the cards nonetheless, just in case you haven't seen Wicked Tales. And we'll start with the back design. It's a mixture of multiple colors of purple and then mixed in with that kind of greenish gold. Obviously, like I said, just a match for that gilding there. Beautiful look to it overall. The metallic inks give a nice glow. Both the purples here, that light purple, and the gold are metallic in finish. And just a classic Giovanni design. That line work, beautifully done. The interlocking rings and twists all the way through just give you lots of great flow to the back design in this one. And then, of course, the design centering around that horned scepter on the top and the bottom. One of the classic elements that you might see in one of the evil characters in your favorite fairy tale. And then finishes out with that deep purple border to the cards. Love the purple in this one. Not a color you see too much in cards, but I think it's beautifully done on this one. And then onto the cards themselves. And we start with the two jokers that introduce us to our first couple of villains. And we start off here with the big bad wolf from the story of the Three Little Pigs. You see the three pigs in the foreground and then the wolf looming up behind them. Nice little extra hits of metallic here, like the gold on the bricks, or the word Joker down here written in the metallic gold as well. And you can get some extra bright colors like the green on the hat or the purple of the wolf. Just a really cool look to it and a classic fairy tale there. And the other one, maybe a little bit lesser known, this one comes from the story of Pinocchio, the fox and the cat here. This is Honest John and Gideon. If you'd seen the animated version of Pinocchio, these were some of the first antagonists in the story. They were con men who swindled everybody in town. But cool look to it. And again, more hits of metallic ink. You can see the glowing green on the cloak there, for example. But really cool look to those. So there's your two jokers. The four aces, no one power ace in this deck. Instead, all four aces give you these huge medallions with the pips embedded in the middle. So you get the spade here, probably the most dramatic of them because of that big staff running through the middle. But then the diamonds, clubs, and hearts have their own adornments as well. And then finish out with that beautiful, I almost call it like a watermark because of its ethereal color to it. But that the gold border in the background, all done in metallic inks that almost seem to disappear as you turn it in the light. Really cool look to it. And then a pretty classic pip and index style in the corner there. This one, instead of the classic red and black, you get red and then a super deep purple there on the classically black cards. So there's your four aces. Really like those. The number cards are a little bit more standard. They all do include that gold line work border, really nicely done with the gold metallic inks. But the pips in the center are left relatively simple. Keeps this a nice usable deck if you wanted to use this for a unique game night or something like that. But cool look to them. The purple pips and then onto the red pips for the diamonds and the hearts. So very familiar shape, nothing too out of the ordinary in this one other than the border that's used on them. So there's your clubs and then into the hearts. So number cards, really nicely done. Little touches on them that give them that extra special feel with that metallic ink. And then finally, we get to the court cards. And of course, with a deck dedicated to villains, we're going to see some various types of bad guys from stories that are all depicted throughout the courts and beautifully done. I love the style on these. I always love a Giovanni court, but I also love the lore that he brings to them. And these are no exception, really tapping into some of that childhood nostalgia. All of them two-way courts and using a mixture of colors that we've seen through the deck. So the black cards here, definitely heavy on the purples with accents of red. Just really nicely done, and a whole great cast of characters. You get things like the evil knight here, or the evil princess, the jack of spades, and of course a queen of spades inspired by none other than Maleficent. Definitely recognize her with that horned headdress that she has. One of the most classic and definitely the one who kind of inspired a lot of the colors I think that are used in the deck. And then King of Spades, not sure which wicked king this is meant to depict, but definitely brings to mind a little bit of Lord of the Rings for me in this one. And then Jack of Diamonds, we have an orc Definitely goes into the Lord of the Rings vibe. And by the way, as we go to the red cards, you'll see less of the purples, a little bit more green brought into these to mix in with the hits of red and of course those gold backgrounds. But you can see this orc with the arrows in the background, kind of in the middle of battle, even has a bit of blood dripping off of his axe. Really like the Queen of Diamonds. This was one of the most interesting, nostalgic ones. This is the old hag from the story of Hansel and Gretel. So she tricked kids into coming into her candy house, and then when they got there, she would push them into the oven and cook them and eat them. So you can see her there clutching her oven and pointing to it. That's a really cool card. King of Diamonds, you have one of the classic giants, this one-eyed giant holding his gigantic club. Giants will appear in all kinds of stories, Jack and the Beanstalk among others. Jack of Clubs, this one's inspired by Rumpelstiltskin, the little impish character here who had the ability to turn straw into gold. So you can see him there clutching his classic spinning wheel and that mischievous grin on his face. Really like the mixture of the green and the purple metallics on this one. Really gives it a great shine to go with that gold. Queen of Clubs here, you get a classic evil fairy. You can see her there, almost kind of a worried look on her face, but I love the almost ethereal feeling purple wings there. And the big bad wolf doesn't just appear in the story of the Three Little Pigs. This is the big bad wolf from the Little Red Riding Hood story. So you can see him there with the picnic basket clutched in the hands. And again, the ribbons of green metallics there look nice. There's an evil prince. Looks a bit noble, but a prince with a bit of a dark side there. And again, the purples and reds look great on this one. And Queen of Hearts, this is probably my favorite of the cards. This is the evil queen from Snow White. So you can see her there with her mirror, her magic mirror. And that magic mirror just has a really cool effect, kind of a translucent almost effect, as you can see the face glowing in the mirror. And you turn in the light, it almost disappears and reappears with the light. Just really cool look to it. And then of course she has the poisoned apple ready to go in her hands. Beautiful card there as the Queen of Hearts. And the final of the courts is none other than Captain Hook from Peter Pan. Of course, recognizable with that captain's outfit and the hook on his hand there. Really cool look to it. And nice little touch. I love the alarm clock here over the shoulder. So he was always chased by Tick-Tock the crocodile, who had once swallowed a clock. And so every time he heard a clock, Captain Hook would get absolutely terrified. And so love the little addition of that over his shoulder. And then we get to the final two cards, and these are extra courts, so duplicate courts. So if you remember, the King of Clubs was the big bad wolf in the Red Riding Hood story. This is another depiction of the wolf, this time in grandmother form. So you can see him there with Granny's cap and glasses on. Very cool little extra touch. And the Wicked Queen from the Queen of Hearts makes a reappearance. This time is the old hag ready to trick Snow White with the poisoned apple. Very cool. And the green metallics on this one, really, really nice. And you can see the shattered mirror now in the background in purple. Very cool look to that one overall. And that is the deck. Just a beautiful set of cards and courts and stories, and some great touches to really bring this to the next level. And by the way, with that gilding, if you're wondering about the handling, this one handles really, really nicely. That gilding, whatever it is that they did to apply the gilding, does not impact the handling at all. No sticking or anything like that you see with some other decks. These just handle beautifully right out of the box. So kudos on whatever was done with that gilding, and would hope to see that technique used in a few other decks in the future. I think it's a really cool one. But anyway, that is the look at Nefarious Tales. Now, if you like this deck and you want to get a hold of this deck or decks like it, I recommend checking out the Thirdway Industries Patreon. This one was what's called an Eternal Edition, available only to subscribers for Patreon. And there's lots of these exclusive versions that are only available there, both now and in the future. So if you've never checked out the Thirdway Patreon, can't recommend it highly enough. I'll put a link down in the description. Definitely go check it out for yourself. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this look at Nefarious Tales from one of my favorite designers out there, Thirdway Industries. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews, more unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.